Found out he's been with a girl at work. I'm done. The floral wallpaper in the entryway always seemed cheerful. A little too cheerful, maybe, considering I picked it out. Mark hated it, said it was something his grandma would have loved, but he'd smiled and helped me hang it anyway. That's the kind of guy I thought I married. A guy who'd suffer through floral wallpaper for the sake of my happiness. We'd been together for 7 years, married for 5. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our shared dreams of a little house by the lake and maybe, someday, a couple of kids. Mark was my rock, my best friend, the guy who knew how to make me laugh even when I felt like crying. Lately, though, the laughter had been fading. Mark was working later and later, buried under some massive project at work. He was distracted at dinner, his eyes glued to his phone even when I was talking. He'd started going to the gym again, which was great, but he was also buying new clothes, designer jeans, and fancy cologne. It wasn't like him. I told myself it was just stress. Work was demanding and everyone goes through phases. But then came the barbecue at David and Lisa's place. David, Mark's best friend since kindergarten, had too many beers and, trying to be funny, leaned in close to me, lowering his voice conspiratorially. Man, that project Mark's on is a killer. He and Emily are burning the midnight oil. I tell ya, practically living at the office. Emily. I vaguely remembered meeting her at a company Christmas party last year. Short brown hair, glasses, seemed quiet and unassuming. Junior developer, I think Mark had said. Yeah, he's been putting in long hours, I replied, trying to sound casual. But David's words stuck in my head like a splinter. The next few weeks were a blur of anxiety and creeping suspicion. I started paying closer attention. The way Mark flinched when his phone buzzed. The hushed phone calls he took in the hallway. The way he suddenly seemed self-conscious about his appearance, checking his reflection in the mirror before leaving for work. I started digging. Subtle things at first. The phone bill. I found a string of texts to a number I didn't recognize. Just short, mundane messages, but they were frequent, especially late at night. Then I checked our shared bank account. Small charges at coffee shops and restaurants near Mark's office that I didn't recognize. A $20 charge at a flower shop. For client, he said when I asked about it, but something in his eyes felt off. Chloe, my best friend, listened patiently as I rattled off my observations, my voice trembling with barely suppressed panic. Sarah, honey, I'm not saying anything is going on, but you're not crazy. Trust your gut. Chloe was a lawyer, pragmatic and level-headed. She wasn't one for drama, but she always had my back. What should I do? I asked her, feeling lost and desperate. Gather more information, she advised. Don't confront him until you're sure, and be prepared for anything. The evidence continued to pile up. A lipstick stain on the collar of his favorite shirt, a shade I didn't own. A faint, unfamiliar perfume clinging to his clothes. A gift card to a fancy Italian restaurant near his office, tucked away in his wallet. I finally confronted him last Tuesday. He was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through his phone. I walked up to him, my heart pounding in my chest, and placed the lipstick-stained shirt in front of him. Care to explain this, Mark? He looked up, startled. His face paled. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, I said, my voice shaking. I know something's going on. You've been distant, secretive. I found this on your shirt, and the perfume. It's not mine. He stammered, trying to deny it, to explain it away. But his eyes betrayed him. He was lying. It's just a work thing, he finally mumbled, avoiding my gaze. We're under a lot of pressure. A work thing that involves lipstick and perfume, I demanded, my voice rising. He stood up, his face flushed. Okay, fine. Maybe I had a drink with a coworker after work. So what? It doesn't mean anything. Who? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He hesitated. It's Emily. The name hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Emily. The quiet, unassuming junior developer. You're having an affair with Emily? I asked, the words feeling foreign and surreal. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The guilt on his face said it all. The argument that followed was a blur of tears, accusations, and denials. He tried to minimize it, to downplay it as a mistake, a moment of weakness. He said he was stressed, that he felt neglected, that I wasn't paying enough attention to him. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Years of trust, of love, shattered in an instant. I can't do this, Mark, I said, my voice trembling. I can't stay with you after this. I'm done. I packed a bag that night, my hands shaking so badly I could barely zip it. I grabbed the essentials, clothes, toiletries, my laptop, a few photos. I left my wedding ring on the nightstand. I drove to Chloe's apartment, tears streaming down my face. She was waiting for me, her arms open. I collapsed into her embrace, sobbing uncontrollably. The next few days were a haze. I stayed at Chloe's, barely eating, barely sleeping. I replayed the conversation with Mark over and over in my head, searching for clues, for signs I had missed. Chloe was my lifeline. She made me eat, made me shower, made me talk about what I was feeling. She helped me find a lawyer and start the process of separating our lives. I moved into a small, furnished apartment downtown. It was nothing like the house I had shared with Mark, but it was mine. A fresh start. I knew I had to confront Emily. I needed to understand. I tracked her down on social media and sent her a message asking to meet. She agreed. We met at a coffee shop near her office. She was even smaller and more unassuming in person than I remembered. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never meant for this to happen." "What did happen?" I asked, my voice cold and hard. "Did he tell you he was unhappy? Did he tell you he was going to leave me?" She looked down, avoiding my gaze. "He said things weren't good between you two, that you weren't connecting anymore. And you believed him?" I asked, my voice laced with sarcasm. I was naive," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "I thought he cared about me. I thought we had something special. I didn't say anything." I just stared at her, trying to understand how someone could be so blind, so easily manipulated. "He used you," I finally said, my voice flat. "He used both of us." Mark tried to contact me, begging me to reconsider. He left voicemails, sent text messages, even showed up at my apartment. He said he was sorry, that he made a mistake, that he still loved me. I didn't respond. I couldn't. The trust was gone. The love was gone. All that was left was a gaping hole where my heart used to be. I started therapy. It helped. I learned to process my emotions, to cope with the pain and the anger. I started focusing on myself, on my career, on my friendships. I reconnected with Brian, a colleague who had always been kind and supportive. We started having lunch together, going for walks in the park. He made me laugh and he listened without judgment. He never tried to push anything, never pressured me to talk about Mark or the divorce. He was just there, a steady presence in my life. One evening, after a particularly difficult therapy session, Brian took me to a small jazz club downtown. The music was soothing, the atmosphere relaxed. As we sat there, sipping our drinks, I realized that I was smiling. It wasn't a big, exuberant smile, but it was a genuine smile. A smile that reached my eyes. A smile that told me I was going to be okay. A few weeks later, I ran into Mrs. Davis, an elderly neighbor from my old street. She gave me a sympathetic look. "Heard about what happened, dear. Such a shame." Mark was always such a nice young man. I forced a smile. "People change, Mrs. Davis." "That they do," she replied, shaking her head. "You seem to be holding up well. You always were a strong one." I thanked her and walked away, her words echoing in my head. Strong. I hadn't felt strong in a long time. But maybe, just maybe, she was right. The divorce was finalized last month. It was a messy, painful process, but it was finally over. I sold the house, split the assets, and signed the papers. I went back to the house one last time to collect my remaining belongings. As I walked through the empty rooms, I remembered all the happy memories we had shared there. The laughter, the love, the dreams we had built together. But I also remembered the lies, the betrayal, the pain. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and let it all go. I'm sitting in my new apartment now, looking out at the city lights. It's small, but it's mine. I have a new job, a new group of friends, a new life. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust someone again. I don't know if I'll ever find love again. But I do know that I'm strong. I do know that I'm resilient. I do know that I can survive anything. Maybe someday I'll even pick out new wallpaper, something without flowers.